Welcome to another episode of Live from the Blue Seats. I'm your host, Rob, joined this week by Dave. I am back after a couple of weeks off as we are inching closer to hockey season here in mid-August. Good show for you today. Quick discussion on something that kicked up this week about the captaincy and the potential for the Rangers to name a captain, and also plenty of questions and comments from socials, the blog, etc. Dave, how we doing this week?
Dave is good this week. I am only working, I think it's 8 total days in August, and I've gone through 7 of them. I'm out for the next 2 weeks. It's amazing. It's a good reset, but I'm also really not allowed to take PTO from September until the end of the year because we have a major project finishing up, and we're not allowed to. So I'm taking it all now.
You going anywhere like trips this summer? Or are you just hanging at home?
So I got a week cruise with the family, and then I got a week of staying home and just sitting on my ass doing nothing.
That sounds
great. I can't wait for that. I got to be honest. That might be the best part of the 2 weeks off. I'm looking forward to the cruise and seeing what the girls do, but I'm looking forward to sitting on my ass and doing nothing.
Oh, 100%. Vacation with little kids is hardly vacation, as anyone who has little kids can tell you. I've never even done really extensive traveling with mine, but yeah, genuinely would be more so looking forward to the free week than the week on the cruise. Although the cruise will be fun, I'm sure it'll be a blast.
Yeah, they have a splash pad and a water park there. My kids will be thrilled with. That's all they need. We'll just keep them there all day.
Beautiful. All right. Well, and look, then when that's all over, not that I'm rushing you through it. It's September, and it's basically, hockey season. Teams will be sort of informally reporting. There'll be news about informal skates. No organized practice, no fitness testing, but most of the players will be, if they're not in the area already, will be back, and they'll be starting to ramp up for hockey season. So that's something to be excited about. The big piece of news that kicked up this week that we'll discuss a little bit before we get to the mailbag portion is the captaincy. So this has been a long discussed, debated is probably the wrong word, but it's always seems to be something that carries a little bit more stress with it for the Rangers and their fans, frankly. There have been some, very, I guess the easiest way to put it is, to use a cliche, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And in the case of the Rangers, heavy is the shoulder that bears the C for this franchise. Ryan McDonough is one example, Jacob Trouba, the latest example. So they have also been a franchise that has waited seasons, plural, between naming captains and have just gone with an assortment of alternates. So, but there has been wide speculation that they will name a captain. There does seem to be a very strong pool of candidates. And I think that, most people are in agreement that it would be a good idea to do it, just almost to sort of set the new direction and set the new era of the team off on the right foot, as opposed to leave it in kind of this nebulous, like, oh, which direction are we going? And what is our culture going to be? I think naming a captain is a big part of that. So, the main 3 names that have emerged are JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, and Adam Fox. Anybody else, Dave, that you can think of, or should we just kind of like stick with those 3?
I think at some point Will Cooley's name is going to get thrown out there, but I think it's a little bit too soon. But yeah, those are the 3, and I have strong feelings on this. It's very rare that I have strong feelings on the captain, but I have a question for you. Do you think Mika Zibanejad's name should be in that conversation?
That's a great question. And honestly, no, because and it's not because it's all and look, we've all been, pretty much the whole fan base at this point has been rightfully critical of and quite hard on Mika Zibanejad for his last couple of seasons of play. Last year was particularly bad, but even the season before, when the Rangers were cruising to a President's Trophy and making a very deep playoff run, he was not himself. And there's plenty of folks who think that if he really was playing up to his, ceiling, maybe that makes a difference against Florida. I don't know. But if you look at it on balance and on kind of the merits, like, sure, he's a long tenured player. He's on a long contract. He is one of the leadership team. He's had an A on his sweater for at least 5 or 6 seasons now. I should say at least 5 seasons, probably going back to 2021. But the reason I say no is I just think he is such a player that struggles with the mental and emotional side of the game so clearly, right? I mean, you can tell when he is really in one of those ruts emotionally and in terms of his confidence. And that's just, you can't have that in a captain. A captain has to be a steady presence, a culture setter, all those things that are, again, cliche and maybe sound a little bit corporate in a way. Zibanejad's just not that. So no, I don't think he should be in consideration just because of what we've seen from him and what the last couple of years and who we know he is. He can still be a productive member of this team. He has to be if they're going to do anything this season, but I don't think burdening him with the captaincy makes any sense.
I'm with you, but for a different reason. I think if he was going to be captain, he would have been named captain before Trouba was.
Right.
And either he didn't want it, which I believe seems to be the case. He is not that type of personality, and that's perfectly fine, by the way. Not everybody needs to be that A-type personality. He just wants to focus on the game, and that's perfectly fine. I think his issues last season are very, not overblown, but all of the blame is also coming on him and going back to the captaincy conversation, Vincent Trocheck deserves a lot of blame as well.
That's fair, at least in terms of play on the ice. I think his attitude was fine during the year, but I agree, he was not very good last year.
And he had an opportunity when Trouba was gone and Kreider was essentially a lame duck at that point. He had an opportunity, especially when Miller came, for the two of them to really kind of recenter the locker room. And neither one of them did. Now, Miller, I'm willing to give a pass because he was there for 32 games.
Mm-hmm.
This is Trocheck's 4th season with the
going
Rangers?
into his 4th. Last year was his 3rd season.
Last year was his 3rd, yeah. So he's going into his 4th. So he's been there with everybody. And I don't want this to come out as a ripping Vincent Trocheck statement. It's not. But I want this to be a very fair and divided criticism for the shit that happened last year. Trocheck deserves a lot of blame because he may not have had an A, but he was most certainly one of the leaders in that locker room. He did nothing. So I'm a little bit surprised that his name is out there and so well received by fans because all people want to do is blame Zibanejad. And Zibanejad's on-ice production outperformed Trocheck's. Objectively, every aspect of the game, he outperformed Trocheck on the ice.
I'm going to agree with you for the most part. I guess where I would push back is you could make the argument, and we're not in the room at all. We're going off of, pretty heavy speculation and some decent reporting about what really happened last year.
That's true.
But no, just to sort of I guess defend Trocheck a little bit, at least in terms of the leadership piece. I think everybody got to a point last year where they were like, this thing is beyond saving. Now, that doesn't mean you totally mail it in, but I think it's hard to, as I kind of said, essentially reset the culture in the middle of what everybody knows is a lost season. That said, could he have, yes, I think could there have been more to his game and the on-ice piece of it that helped pull the Rangers up a little bit and put them in a better light, at least to themselves. Cause again, in a season like last year, yes, it's a little bit embarrassing, but you really want to prove to yourself, hey, we're not this bad. This is an aberration. And we were nearly a championship team last year. And this is not who we are. And I'm going to step up and play like it. He didn't do that. Nobody did that. I totally agree with you on JT Miller that it was not incumbent upon him to single-handedly try and save a sinking ship last year. So I do give him a pass somewhat in that regard. Look, I think people see Trocheck and they've always seen him this way. And I think it's true. He is that pest type, hard on his shoulder, emotional leader type, for a hockey team. And that also, I think, is also frankly what, people also confuse with him, being like a shutdown player. I think he can be a shutdown player with the right coaching and the right system and the right role. But he's always been more of an offense first player, to put it mildly. But he does have that sort of emotional edge to his game, and he's a pain in the ass to play against. People like that type of player when they think of a captain. So, and that's what they want for their team. So, in that respect, that's why I think he's in the conversation still. And I do see what you're saying in terms of there was certainly a leadership void that should have been filled last year, and nobody at all stepped up to it. And I think, to your point, Trocheck was probably the best position to do that, and he just didn't do it.
Yeah, and that's also why I am of the belief they shouldn't name one before at least Thanksgiving.
Oh, so you want to start the season without a captain?
I want to start the season without a captain. I want them to play it out and figure it out themselves. The captain is a locker room thing. It's not a coach thing. It's for them, and it's honestly a lot for us as fans. Okay, this is the captain of the team, et cetera, et cetera. It's like a nice symbolic gesture, basically. And I want them all to, no distractions, figure it out. Because at this point, from the end of last season to this season, there isn't much turnover. Kreider and Miller are the only two. Well, I mean, two is still 10% of the roster. But from the end of last season to the start of this season, there's only two regulars gone. Now, from the start of last season to the start of this season, it's a major overhaul, and that's fair. But there is no need to rush this decision, especially given the history of trading the captain over the last 3-4 captains we've traded.
Yes.
Jágr
always gets traded.
Yep, and we could skip Jágr and go to Leach, and that makes it 5 of 6 or 4 of 5 or something to that effect. They just get traded.
Yep.
So why are we going to rush this decision? Why are we going to put another burden on somebody who's coming off of whatever the hell last year was? Let them figure it out. Do the 6 A's thing again. We have Panarin and Zibanejad, though I don't think Panarin should have an A anymore, but
agreed.
I've spoken about this way too many times already. So assuming the Rangers don't do anything with Panarin, him, Zibanejad, and Fox will have A's. Give A's to Miller and Trocheck. That's 5. And go from there. That's 5 A's.
Maybe Gavrikov, right, as a new guy. So you might do that to sort of as a symbolic thing, hey, he's coming in and providing us a different element that we have not had. He's an experienced player, right? So could be him, could be, again, Cooley's young, but not a horrible idea to give a young player like that, an A. I mean, probably is still a little bit early in his career. Schneider's another maybe outside shot for an A.
I don't know if Schneider's going to be a Ranger at the end of next season.
Right, but I'm just talking to your point, just naming 6 as alternates, 3 for home games, 3 for away games.
Although maybe they should name Schneider the captain, so it makes trading him a lot more palatable.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to this joke the entire season, by the way.
Yeah. So listen, I agree with you. So I was going to say, my initial thought was just do this before the season. But I do see the merits of waiting a little bit. I don't want to wait too long, because I do think it's important, and I want to do a little bit of a cross-sport comparison. And look, this is not a team you often want to be compared to, but everything I've read, and I'm a devoted and ever optimistic Jets fan. That's just how I was raised. They have a new coach, Aaron Glenn, who was a former player and waited a long time to get his opportunity to be a head coach. And by all accounts, he's run a really effective training camp, and people feel good about the team. Not that they're going to be a 10 or 11 win team, but that they're moving in the right direction culturally. One of the things they also did was they got rid of Aaron Rodgers and brought in Justin Fields, and they did not say, which this is not something I don't think the Jets have ever done when they've been in this situation previously, and they usually are because they never have a good starting quarterback. They did not say this is an open competition between him and the supposed backup Tyrod Taylor. They signed Justin Fields and they said, he's the starting quarterback. He's going to be the leader of the offense. He's referred to himself as the leader of the offense. And it's basically a culture setter, right? So part of me thinks like, hey, you know what, Mike Sullivan, like come in, run a hard camp, get these guys going physically, make it hard on them, and then play a few preseason games. And before the opening game, do a player vote and pick a captain and just have it be, a cool thing for that person and a good locker room moment, right? Something that the team can they can galvanize the team, but don't do the whole, like the Rangers called an off-season press conference out of nowhere and did the whole thing with Trouba and the emotional video, and he was crying, and then John Giannone's interview. It's just, you don't need all that pomp and circumstance. No. This is for the players in the room, and then it reflects back to the fans when they see that player on opening night. So like, to me, it helps set the culture if you do it preseason. That said, you could do the same thing right after Thanksgiving. You could say, all right, now that we've established who we are as a team, we want to set the leadership group moving forward. And again, I think it should be done on a player vote basis. So I'm open to that idea, but I think either way, like I don't want to sit on this for a year, and I don't want them to be this sort of like nebulous, leaderless operation, because a big part of culture and getting this thing going in the right direction, I think, is leadership.
I agree. I'm not, this isn't a hill I die on,
Oh, no.
I just don't want them to rush into it and just name, say, JT Miller as captain before they even drop the puck in their first preseason game. Let somebody rise to the top, and I believe eventually the captaincy will either go to Fox or to Cooley. Dark horse Lafreniere, by the way.
Yeah. Well, if he turns it around, yeah, and yeah, I can see
it. I think the hate on Laff goes a little bit too overboard as well. There are concerns, but I think the hate is completely overblown. Those are the three that are the leadership core for the next group. I can see Brett Berard being part of that.
Yeah, he's got the right. If he becomes a regular middle of the lineup NHLer, definitely.
And I can see Braden Schneider, assuming his shoulder is actually healed, being a part of that too. They have a good, solid group of under 25 players. And that's why I do think it's going to be Miller, not Trocheck, but Miller, because he's got 5 years left on his contract. He's 33. He's going to be 33 in March. So this is his age 32 season. 2, 3, 4, 5. That takes him to age 36.
Yep.
But once you get into 27, 28, you're looking at a modified no trade. I don't think he's going to finish this contract with the Rangers. I think he'll take the Rangers to the next core and window and either slowly fade to a 3C role or just outright be moved.
Yeah, I think everything I've read. So I would have had my doubts about Adam. I'll just say right now, I think it should be Adam Fox long term, and if that's the case, then like just do it now, as opposed,
with good supporting A's around him to help him learn.
Exactly. But Fox is the best skater. By all accounts, he is leading by example this offseason. He has been in the gym, like at the Prentice, the big gym that Kreider and Trevor Zegras and all these guys, Rempe's been training there. Like he's been with those guys. Berard is training there. This has not been like a summer of like weddings and drinking and like, I'll start skating in August for Adam Fox. Like he has been nose to the grindstone by all accounts. And I think he needed that. Again, I can definitely hold the two things side by side, where I know that his numbers last year, both even the even strength scoring and the underlying metrics were very good. They were, he had more even strength points last year than he did 2 years ago. The defensive metrics were still elite on a very bad team. All those things are true. I also did not see the same level of player that I saw 2 and 3 seasons ago when he was winning the Norris Trophy and he was a lock to be a finalist. I think everybody could agree that his play, from an eye test perspective, dipped along with the rest of the team. Injuries or not, so this was a
But
big
I have a
offseason for
question
him. And
about that.
yeah,
I got a question about that. The Rangers power play went from top 3 to bottom 5.
hmm
Are we having this conversation about Fox if the Rangers power play is even remotely good last year?
no, that's fair. Probably not, but at the same time, the team's probably in the playoffs. I mean, we had that. I remember us
Yeah,
having
that's a
that
good point. Yeah,
discussion
we had that.
last.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time I was on the pod a couple weeks ago, it was like, hey, that a number 5 power play as opposed to the 25th best power play is probably enough for 7 or 8 more points in the standings. So anyway, look, I think this is a long-winded way of saying I'm in the Adam Fox corner. I'm also fine with JT Miller. I'd be fine with Trocheck as well, but I think in my order, my power rankings, if in order of preference, would be Fox, Miller, Trocheck.
If we're going off of those 3, I would go Miller, Fox, Trocheck.
Right.
Only as with Miller as a transitional captain, set the tone under Sully, and then eventually transition to Fox because Fox will eventually be a good counter personality to Sully, and sometimes
Yeah.
you need that yin and yang.
Yep.
But to start and to really set the tone, I do think you need the equal level of intensity that is Miller, and then eventually let him cede this to Fox.
Makes sense. All right. Good discussion. Let's do some questions.
All right.
Wherever you want to start.
I'll start on Twitter. I was trying to think of a clever name. The Sig Heil site, I guess. I don't know. From Jessica Lynn 312.
Hey,
I
Jess.
don't know. Jess is a longtime friend, fan, supporter, and threatening to stab me anytime I try to buy a jersey anymore. So Jess says this is not Rangers related. I don't know why, JL, you are sighing about the Jets. We have a quarterback who can actually run and isn't ancient. But Jess, they're the Jets.
Yeah, I JL's not here, but I will. Oh, I guess she's referring to the tweet.
The tweet that was sent out where we may talk the Jets. Sigh.
Right, got it. Look, again, I alluded to the Jets 5 or 10 minutes ago, and I believe Jess and I are very similar. We were raised a certain way, and unfortunately, that is the football team that was given to us. That was not done by choice. But there is a level of stubborn optimism when you are a Jets fan. Like, look, for any sport, right? I mean, you would stop following sports if you didn't have a little bit of optimism and a little bit of excitement for any season. And you can talk yourself into anything as a sports fan. Look, so that said, I mean, look, everybody's entitled to feel the way they feel. The Jets have done a number on people's emotions and psychology over the last 15 years that anybody who feels downtrodden by that is entitled to feel that way. But I'm definitely with Jess. I'm excited. I think that there's reason to be excited. I just give me some Justin Fields running for a few touchdowns. If they can be 500 in November or a game under 500 in November, that's a great season for the Jets. So if we're there in November, then good. And I think that's possible. So yeah, why not be optimistic about your team before the season starts?
Fair enough. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard on the Jets, but they're the Jets. I mean,
they're the Jets. Of course you can be hard on them. They're the Jets.
All right, on to Blue Sky. Gerard Gallant slander account, still my favorite Blue Sky handle. The Shanghai Dragons released an announcement video for Gerard Gallant's hiring, which was the single greatest video I have ever seen, ever.
It was amazing. We should link to it in like the blog post in the description of this because if you haven't, you need to see it.
I think I'm going to break my rule of not linking to Elon's site and just do it for that one.
I think it's worth the exception.
Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, in it, they portray him as Raiden from Mortal Kombat. Yes, we know, and I was on the floor dying when I saw that. If you had to portray all the Rangers coaches since and including John Tortorella as video game characters. Who would each be? I really wish I saw this before this.
Yeah.
Video game characters. Okay, so Torts to me would be Hades from Hercules. He's appeared in a couple of video games. They're obviously Disney themed video games, but Torts is Hades.
Okay.
Just the temper, and you know, in the movie when Hades gets mad, he goes from blue to red fire on his head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's AV?
Anybody we know that just chewed gum incessantly until the end of time?
I don't know. I'm also
AV.
thinking like, yeah,
Smug son of a bitch.
very smug.
So
I
was
don't know.
Gallant, though. Who was a smug guy who basically rode the coattails of somebody else?
In a video game.
I don't game much. That's the like I am very strict with my basically Final Fantasy games that I absolutely love, and that's really it. I can do movie characters. I can do Disney movies.
Yeah, my era of gaming. I mean, I remember and played enough Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, etc. But I played mostly sports games growing up. I mean, look, Super Mario. I would go back to Super Mario Brothers and Mario Kart. I mean, we could go with characters from those worlds.
I think we have to go down to Mario Kart, Sonic, and the reason why I'm saying Sonic is I think AV would be Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, there you go.
That's overly complicating shit. Doesn't just do what is plain right out in front of him. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. I love how they're all villains, by the way.
Of course.
So David Quinn.
David Quinn. Is he like? I don't know.
I feel like he's Luigi.
Yeah, I was gonna say I kind of want to like right, because he's always the sidekick. He's never the leader. It was always Mario and Luigi.
Yep, and then when given the lead role, not exactly the greatest reception to it.
Yes, agreed. I like Luigi for David Quinn. Okay.
So can we skip Gallant? I think we can skip Gallant.
Yeah, let's say he's Raiden because the Shanghai Dragons are amazing at social media and video content.
So Peter Laviolette. Everybody, okay, hear me out on this. Do you remember when the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie was coming out and they released that god-awful CGI render of Sonic and it went absolutely bonkers viral that everybody hated?
With the hairy legs?
Yeah, and then they reworked Sonic. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Laviolette is the first iteration of Sonic. Still qualifies as a video game character.
Yep.
But we all wanted the second version, which was Chris Knobloch. But we were stuck with the first version, which is Peter Laviolette.
Okay.
It's a stretch.
Right. It's a stretch, but I think I can deal with that. I was thinking something along the lines of it, but it's not really. I mean, first of all, Becky always called Peter Laviolette Fred Flintstone because he actually kind of looks like Fred Flintstone. But he's not. I mean, I think they made a Flintstones game at some point, but that doesn't.
I'm assuming so.
I think they did.
You know who Gallant could be? Gallant could be E.T. because he looks like E.T.
Yes, he does. And then what about Sullivan's the only guy that I feel like you could you'd be like a positive hero type character. What's the name of the? Yeah,
I don't know.
Who's the hero in Metal? What's the guy's name in Metal Gear Solid? I did play that game.
I don't know.
To completion, great game. Finally beat it. Took a long time. But I mean, that's a I feel that good about Sullivan that he's a legit like elite leader and has a presence and is going to get shit done. So hopefully that's the case. Yeah. Good question. I wish we had better answers. I'm not a gamer. I think that was the last, other than playing Madden and FIFA in college and a little bit after college with FIFA. I have not played video games in a long time. When my kids get a little bit older, maybe I might jump back in as they get into that age, but not yet.
If you don't give them the rite of passage of absolutely wrecking them at Mario Kart, I'm going to judge you.
We're going to get, and I think Becky wanted to get a console like even before we had kids at certain points, but yeah, no, we are still a console free household at this point.
Get an old school N64, teach them how to play, let them get confident in their abilities, and then absolutely wreck them. Just knock them down from absolute. This is what I'm going to do with my girls.
You have to
do it.
Your kids need to be knocked down a peg once in a while.
Yeah, they do. And Mario Kart's the best way to do it.
Yes.
All right, we have. Oh, Jesus. I checked this an hour ago, and we had 34 comments on the blog on the submit your questions. Now it's up to 44. Not all of them are questions.
Right.
So I'm going to do my best to get through them all.
Yeah, we can do rapid fire for sure.
Yeah, this is going to have to be rapid fire. So let me just sort by newest, and we'll go that way. So sorting from newest, Earth Yourself. My beliefs are that the Rangers are Stanley Cup contenders only if the coach is a true great coach. Do you agree? Absolutely yes.
100%.
And I believe they have it. Sullivan's a top 5 coach in the NHL.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I remember, and just a quick aside on this, like when the Rangers beat them in 2022, right? Yep. That was not because Mike Sullivan got out coached. That was basically because the Penguins didn't get any goaltending, and the Rangers played well enough offensively. I don't want to discount what the Rangers did. They went on a heater though, and that happens in any sport, in any playoff scenario, even across long series. The Rangers went on a heater. Crosby got hurt, and they beat the Penguins in 7 games in overtime. I remember though seeing some stuff online about the Penguins utterly dominated the first 3.5 games of that series. And it was basically because Sullivan was coaching circles around Gallant. He was changing up neutral zone forechecks. He was running different breakouts. I mean, it was really high level stuff. It was the type of stuff that you more associate with basketball, the way coaches move pieces around and change their offensive sets and throw different defensive looks at teams, especially in playoff series. It was like that. So the Rangers have that. I think honestly, it's not going to be the coach that holds them back. It's going to be the roster.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Okay, there are a couple of others. Okay, again from Earth Yourself. When you say you are a Matt Rempe fan, it seems you're not telling the truth because you think he's only a fourth liner. I don't understand what you're trying to say here. We can like a player and still recognize his ceiling as a fourth liner. Like Rempe's not going to be a 50-goal scorer. I don't know.
He's not going to be a 20-goal scorer.
I think he'll peak as a 10-goal. He'll have a random 10-goal, 20-point season.
Yeah, and that would be great.
Yeah, and I love it. I love the kid. I just wish the refs would kind of back off a little bit and let him play. He's learning. He's adjusting. He's getting better. He's a fourth liner, and that's fine. You need fourth liners.
People need to remember, too, that if everybody scored 20 or 25 goals on your roster, you'd have the best team ever assembled, and it reaches a point where actually that's not even possible because there's not enough ice time to go around. So like, it's just, you need guys who are good in their roles. Like hockey is, that is very important. There's a lot of guys on the Florida Panthers. We always use them as the example, rightfully so, that are not ever going to score more than 31 points in a season or 24 points in a season, forwards, but they are very good in their roles. They play good defense. They don't take penalties. They eat up the minutes they're supposed to eat up, and they chip in when they need to chip in. So that's all you want out of Rempe. And it doesn't mean we dislike him. I actually am advocating for him to play. I want him to play and have a regular role. I think there's value there.
Okay, this guy asked like 45 questions. Okay, Earth Yourself, one comment is perfectly fine. List out all your questions there, please. Okay, we'll get to them. You don't have to put each one in a separate comment. Although it does inflate the comment total, so.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. To me, again from Earth. The next bunch of questions are all from Earth Yourself until otherwise noted.
Okay.
To me, Peter Pruka was a great player, but was hammered by everybody, just like Lindgren. What player is the next Peter Pruka in terms of being underappreciated, scoring 30 goals, and getting displaced by Brendan Shanahan?
The other thing, Pruka, if Pruka was look, and I think we all loved him. If that was the Rangers, if that was the mistake that Rangers fans think it was, he would have gone somewhere else and scored 30 goals every year, and he didn't do that. He was out of the league. He was out of the league 2 years later because he was a little too small and he was not really fast enough. He was not a particularly good skater. He had good goal scoring instincts, but he was kind of a one-trick pony. And once defenses got adjusted to the new rules and the new style of play, he became less and less effective. I don't think he was a great player. I think he was a good player in the right situation. Lindgren was a better player than him too. Obviously, look, Lindgren just got a 4-year deal from Seattle. I don't think he's not worth even that contract. And that was 4 years, 18 million. But he's an NHLer. Like Peter Pruka got to a point where he was no longer an NHLer. And I don't think the Rangers were necessarily wrong with the way they handled him. I do think that in those first couple of years, as they struggled to finish, there were times when he should have been in the lineup over players like, I don't know, Brad Isbister.
All right. Moving to the next question. Okay, the next question is about captains. We literally dedicated an entire segment to skipping it.
Yep.
I'm also skipping the who is faster than Matt Rempe question because that's everybody.
These are amazing questions.
Do you prefer a balanced 4 lines or do you want to put all your eggs on the top line? I am going to rephrase this question. Do we want to go top heavy with Zibanejad as a winger and Juuso Parssinen as a 3C? Or do we want to spread it out a little bit and keep Zibanejad at center and hope that the kids grow into their winger roles? I'm gonna phrase this question a little bit better.
Yeah, and Dave, I want to hear your thoughts as well. But I'm for balance and utilizing the center depth that's on your roster. Look, this isn't a great roster by any stretch of the imagination, but where it could potentially be better than people think is down the middle. If your 3 centers are Miller, Zibanejad, Trocheck, Carrick, with Parssinen as a depth option, or as someone who can play the wing with his size.
And Brodzinski.
Right, and Brodzinski. So there's actual depth and quality there that I think you're just cutting yourself off at the knees if you put Zibanejad on the wing. So I'm for the balance.
And if you put Zibanejad on the wing, guess what? That's one less wing spot for a Perreault, a Berard, an Othmann. You got to see what you have in, maybe not so much Perreault, and we've talked this through for the last month and a half. You have to see what you have in the very least Berard and Othmann. And if you move Mika to wing, guess what? That's a top 6 winger spot that should be Othmann's to start the season. That's gone. And now you have a third line of what? Othmann, Parssinen, and or Radish.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you're setting up Othmann to fail there.
Yes, agreed.
Oh, Jesus Christ. How many fucking questions? Okay. I'm skipping all your slow questions because you're trying to get a rise out of people. And yeah, we're done here. You're just trolling. You had a couple of good ones. You fooled me with the first one and possibly the second one. But yeah, I'm reading this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to ban. I'm gonna have to ban this guy. You're just a jackass. Okay,
let's move on.
NYC Crash. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Well done.
No comment. I appreciate that. That was the perfect palate cleanser. Whatever the fuck we just had to go through before. All right. Oh, thank you, Crash. Now, I appreciate that. So now your actual questions, and a couple of questions here. From NYC Crash, do you think the Rangers will be making another move before the season starts? If so, what do you think the right move would be to make?
I don't see it because I just don't really think there's that much out there. There might be a couple of, free agents lingering. But we already know about the Connor Sheary. That's a PTO, right? He's going to be brought in on a tryout. Um, I don't see it happening. I think they're going to hold their cards till the trade deadline, or at least, that early December trading period, which does seem to be an active period in the NHL. If you look at, teams, they get about 20 games in, and some GMs get the itchy trigger finger if things haven't started the right way, a la Chris Drury last year. So, but no, I don't see anything happening before opening night.
Can I take a cheap way out?
Yes.
They have to re-sign Dylan Garand and possibly Talon Boyko. So Garand will be the move they make.
There you go.
Sorry, that I know that's a cop out, but it's technically true.
Technically true.
Would you make the trade with the Avs for Nichis? Did I miss something? Or wait for him to hit free agency and then try to sign him? Did I miss something about?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see any proposed trade or anything about. I mean, look, I think
Yeah.
Marty Necas is a good player, but I don't know what you're giving up.
Yeah, I'm confused. I must have missed something, but let's play this out. Let's say there was a rumor that the Rangers are looking to snatch up Nichis. Let me pull up the cap-friendly page. 1 year, $6.5 million remaining. You have to re-sign him. He's a pending unrestricted free agent, and he is no longer a center. He's a right wing. So
Right.
I would look to make that move under four very specific scenarios, and all four have to hit. One, Connor McDavid resigns in Edmonton. Two, Jack Eichel resigns in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Three, the Rangers are clear in that they are moving on from Artemi Panarin.
Mm-hmm.
And four, Brennan Othmann is not it.
Yeah, I that's exactly it. You're totally right, Dave. I don't have anything to add to that. He is a good second or third backup option if Eichel and or McDavid are off the table. But like you said, he's not a center. So, okay, but he's a Panarin replacement. I think it would be fair to say.
Yep. And that's how I see. I really don't want the Rangers to re-sign Panarin. I believe they will, but on the off chance that they don't, Natchez is going to be 27. It's a solid pending free agent. Will also keep his price down, hopefully.
Yep. Right, but then you got to resign. But yeah, okay. So
you
that
can
all makes
him.
sense. Yeah.
And then there's more. So Crash, you also went through and validated why Natchez, just to give folks more insight to the question. The team is about 2 or 3 moves away from being a solid contender. I agree with that. I think Nate should be a good fit, young, strong, fast, two-way, and a center. He's not a center anymore. So if you're basing this off of him being a center, he didn't play center at all last year.
Right.
All right, moving on to Joe S. Where do you guys think Sully will start Mika? And do you think he is right? I think we've covered this a lot. Maybe go into his line mates and not necessarily the position.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the number one most pressing question on everybody's mind. Rightfully so. He is, he's kind of like this swing player here. I think last time we talked about this, I do think he's gonna. I don't agree with it because I would do the opposite. I would play him at center. I think he's gonna play wing because it seems like Juuso Parssinen is the 3C option based on the contract extension he signed. The Rangers did not need to extend him, as we just detailed with the center depth they already have with Sam Carrick, Brodzinski, potentially Noah Laba, right? He might potentially be close to NHL already. I think he finished the year in Hartford last year, so he, in theory, could have competed for a bottom 6 center spot on a young team. But they re-signed Parssinen, 2-year deal. Yes, he could go down to the minors, I suppose, but I think he's here to play. If he does start the year on the wing, I think he's going to play with Miller and either Panarin or Lafreniere. It's pretty easy at that point to you just flip a coin. It probably will depend on how things play out in training camp and what looks good in practice and in the few exhibition games that the regulars play in. And I think that Sullivan will tend to load up those top two lines and then just rely on defensive commitment from the bottom six to not get hurt and play, head above water hockey.
All right. So I'm just gonna do devil's advocate on this. I believe he should be center as well. And since you went into the wing discussion, I honestly don't know which way Sully's leaning, and he's at a point, Sully, where we kind of have to trust the process. I may not agree with it if he winds up on wing, but you got to trust the top 5 coach in the NHL. But if it were
100%.
me, and I'm going to change it up a little bit because I've been, kind of consistent with, what was it, Panarin, Miller, Laugh, and then Trocheck, Cooley, Othman, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to change it up a little bit. So let's say you have Mika at center with Panarin on his left. With Cooley on his left and Lafreniere on his right.
Mm-hmm.
And that leaves Panarin and Miller for your top line and a true show us what you got spot for Brennan Othman.
Yep.
This is why he really has to be a center. You have to see what you have in Othman, and you have to get him into actual NHL games. This is beyond dumb at this point that we're having this conversation about Othman because they haven't even given him a shot. If he's not good, fine, get rid of him. But he's got, 30 games with whatever the hell last year was?
Right.
Let's give him a real look.
You can also always move Zibanejad to wing after 20-25 games. That is a lever you can pull. And sure, the opposite is true as well. You can start this, but if you start the season with Zibanejad on the wing, you've already committed to that because you're not then going to supplant the veteran who, yes, did look good on the wing last year with the unproven rookie. It makes a lot more sense to start the season with Othman getting, like you said, Dave, real top 6 minutes with a great elite playmaker in Artemi Panarin and a, very forceful, at times dominant, rugged top NHL center in JT Miller. I couldn't, because he and who's a player he can somewhat emulate stylistically, right? So that's almost perfect. You've got the veteran center who's going to play two-way hockey. You've got the playmaking left winger, and you've got Othman, whose job should be to make damn sure he does what he has to do defensively and then get his ass in front of the net for backdoor tap-ins, deflections, rebounds, etc. That's a perfect role for him. And yeah, if he gets a chance to shoot the puck and try to beat the goalie from mid-range, which he can do, that's part of the scouting report on him. Great, but this is very much what Sully did with Rust and Gensel when they were young players those years that Pittsburgh was winning cups. Those guys were called up from the AHL when Sullivan got the head coaching gig midway through the 17-18 season or the 16-17 season, whichever it was. And they became top 6 players right away. He plugged them in. Yes, he had previous relationships with them. That certainly factored in, but he plugged them right in. And Brian Rust has been riding shotgun with Sidney Crosby for most of the last 10 years. So why couldn't you do something similar with Brennan Othman?
And Brett Berard.
Right. And it
let him play on a third line with Trocheck and Radish as a shutdown line.
Right. Yeah, that to me, that just makes so much sense. And that is a very competitive, somewhat deep forward group.
Actually, they wouldn't even be the shutdown line because because I'm going away for a week, I preloaded all the report cards for next week. Sam Carrick and Adam Edstrom are a solid 1-2 punch and a shutdown defensive zone start fourth line. If you can find a right winger that can also fill that role, and I hope it's Rempe, but let's say it's Brodzinski or if it's Parsonen, then you don't need to figure out which one of Trocheck or Zibanejad plays shutdown roles. You put all three of those top lines in offensive roles.
Right.
So that's why a fourth line is important, by the way.
Right, because then you could really utilize the fourth line as a true checking line.
Yep, exactly. And that's what we kind of got grilled into our heads from all the NHL video games way back when.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Blue shirts. What rookie/prospect earns a spot on the big club right out of camp? I think we've already been clear with Othmann and Berard. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd say Brett Berard. I think the only other guy that I think, not everybody, at least from like the traditional media, is sold on is Morrow, who I think, because I would still consider him as prospect. Obviously, he's not a Ranger prospect, but I think Morrow's got a very good chance to start opening night for the Rangers.
I am going to go one step beyond that. I think Morrow also winds up as the power play 2 defenseman.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that shifts Braden Schneider to left defense on the second pair.
Yeah, which would be ideal. That's exactly how I want them to do it.
Yeah, same here. If Urho Vakanainen, all due respect, is a regular playing 17, 18 minutes a night for 70 games, this is not a good team, period.
Yeah.
Hope I'm wrong, by the way.
He'd be a good 7. He'd be a really good 7th defenseman, Vakanainen. So
yeah, exactly where I sit.
Yeah.
Okay, holy crap. 2 line passes. There's a whole lot here. What is the best way to cook a steak? Medium rare.
Yeah, on the grill, medium rare.
Yeah, on the grill, medium rare. I will accept if you are pregnant, well done, because that's all you can have.
Sure.
I felt so bad for my wife when she was ordering, and she's like, "I have to eat it well done," and everybody was like, looking like, "Well done," like she's pregnant. What the fuck do you want?
Yeah.
Do you go with Berta beef? Always Berta beef, USDA. I am pretty sure I just read something that's kind of like D's nuts, but I don't know what the hell it is. So if you got me, you got me. I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Should you do salt and pepper, then cook both sides 2 minutes and let it sit and serve? You should season your steak with everything but salt, in advance, and then do salt right before you chuck it on the grill or however you're cooking it, because salt draws out the moisture.
Right, exactly.
Or do you clean and flip twice on each side? Are you a constant flipper on the grill, or do you do 2.5 minutes depending on temperature?
No, you don't constantly flip. No.
Yeah.
It's just one side. Once. I tend to cook a little longer on the first side.
Yep.
Like
I
3
do
minutes.
2:30 and 2. I do 2:30 and 2, where depending on where the temperature is. I just got a new grill, so I've been playing with it, and I haven't been able to figure out how I need to heat it up.
Yeah, I've got a shitty old grill that gets it's small, so it gets really hot. So I have to be very careful. But yeah, I mean, it's 2 and 2, 2.5 and 2, like you said, or 3 and 2. One flip. Don't play with it too much. Just let it cook.
Yeah. What's the good Charlotte lyric?
Oh God.
Shake it once, that's fine. Twice, it's okay. 3 times, you're playing with yourself. Treat your steak like this.
There you go.
Wow. I just amazed myself.
Not my favorite band. I got to be honest.
I also kind of feel like Montreal steak seasoning should be in the mix. Montreal steak is very underappreciated. It's a good starter seasoning.
Yes, exactly. It's widely available, easy to find, easy to use. Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can start experimenting with different seasonings and rubs as you get more experienced.
Okay. And then the final question, back to how to cook it. Do you sear each side and put it in the oven? Would that be overhandling? Could be squirrely if you do that.
So yeah, I've like done this in like not on the grill when it's cold out and you don't go outside to grill. You do it like you sear it in like a cast iron pan, which I have a very old but still very good cast iron pan. Then you just throw that whole thing in the oven for, I don't know, 5 minutes. So sure, that is an acceptable method. Yes.
Yeah. with the
But
butter, garlic, and rosemary that you kind of just keep putting on the steak that I see
right.
in every freaking Instagram video ever.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, ideally you're on a grill and it's one flip and you're done.
Yep, exactly. All right. What from Captain Jack? So okay, I did say that was two line passes, all the state questions. So now, Captain Jack, what one player benefits the most from Sully's system? He says Mika Zibanejad. He plays well in space and is a counterattack player. I
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the easy answer too, because
Yeah.
just, this is like the all roads lead to Mika season. Like he's going to be the most scrutinized player on this team, which we know he's not always the most comfortable in that position, but hopefully he's just able to play free. I'm actually going to go a little bit off the board here because again, he was so great last year and he is their best skater, but I'm going to say Adam Fox. I think this, like the combination of Sully's system, a renewed commitment by the forwards to play defense, and his partner, hopefully being Vlad Gavrikov, I think all those things have a massive positive effect. I would be very bullish on Adam Fox having a Norris level season. Like I'm talking, close to career highs in points, very easily in the mix for the Norris Trophy again. Like I'm when you put the when you consider what's going on in his offseason and how it's been well documented that he's like I said, very focused on having a good season and a healthy season from a physical standpoint. I just see a lot of benefits for Adam Fox here.
I'm going to go even further off the board. And I'm going to make a wild prediction with it too. Assuming he gets consistent power play time, top unit power play time, and top 6 minutes, Alexi Lafreniere will have a point per game season.
Ooh.
And he will be the one that benefits the most out of Sully's system. Sully has all he does is generate wingers. Gensel, Rust, Sheary, all these guys were none of them were top round talent. Gensel was the highest pick in the 3rd round, I think, something like
he's
that.
a 3rd rounder, yeah.
And Sully turned Gensel into Gensel. Sheary had a solid bunch of years. I think age just caught up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Rust is still chugging along.
Yep.
And guess what? Laff is going to be playing with most likely JT Miller.
Yep. I think it's a great shout. It's a great shout.
All right. We got a few left. Nikki 70. Do you think Drury is holding off an extension for Panarin because of the possibility of trading him at the deadline? Far-fetched, but could there be a quote-unquote gentleman's agreement, waive the no move depending on playoff contention, and re-sign after he's traded? So basically pulling a Keith Tkachuk with Atlanta.
Yeah. I think no. I actually think all of that sounded reasonable up until that point. I don't think if they trade him, they would then turn around and re-sign him. I think if they're going to re-sign him, it's going to get done. It's going to be one of those like mid-September or late September news drops. Like, oh, they extended him by 3 years and, whatever it is, 3 years, 29 million. I don't know what it was. It going to be 30 million, 10 million per. Cause I do think it would be a somewhat of a pay cut from his current cap hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, slight pay. Maybe it's 10.5, whatever it is. And I think if they don't extend him, then yeah, I mean, that's certainly trading him's on the table, but I don't think they would bring him back. I don't think that makes any sense. I think you have to start transitioning to, as we were talking about earlier, the next core here. And Sullivan is on a 5-year deal, meaning, yes, the Rangers want to get back to contention as soon as possible, but Drury, and rightfully so, right, probably has a lot of faith in the guys that he has drafted. Remember, he's only been the general manager of this team for what? Like, this is going to be his 4th full season. That's not no time, but only now are the prospects that you drafted in 23, 24, et cetera, like starting to potentially edge their way into the league. Right. So like, I think he believes in the players he's drafted. I think he believes that they're going to turn this core over and be contenders with Sullivan as the coach. This is the coach he's always wanted. So I don't see them bringing Panarin back unless, again, Othman, Berard, and Perreault seem like they are going to fail to hit their potential, all three of them. And even still, you're not solving any problems there because Panarin's not getting any younger.
Yep.
And really, like, again, like you said, Dave, so much of this does hinge on what happens with McDavid and Eichel as well.
And I think a lot of this hinges on how Zibanejad plays.
That too.
Because if Zibanejad, this player that needs to get off to a hot start is Zibanejad. It doesn't matter what the Rangers look like. The Rangers could go 0-10 to start the season, but if Zibanejad is scoring, putting up 20 points in those 10 games, that will dictate what happens to Panarin. I believe they're waiting to see who they're going to move on from, one or both.
Right.
And personally, and I'm going to beat this into the ground because somebody on Blue Sky was just like, hey, how come you never call out the Rangers for ignoring Panarin? I'm like, do you not listen to the podcast?
No, yeah, we have discussed it, and
like ad nauseum, like every time Panarin's name comes up, it's the same thing. None of us want him on this team anymore. But I do believe the Rangers will re-sign him. Probably, I don't think it'll be a September thing. I think it'll be a January thing.
Right, January. Okay.
Yep. I think it'll be after the new year. The Rangers have a better idea where they stand. I mean, granted, if the entire team shits the bed again, I can see Panarin getting moved pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah. But again, I think when we've talked about this before, the first few months of this season really need to be less about transactions and rumors and player movement and more about just playing hockey. Just get the best 20 guys on the ice every night and play and see where you are, because I don't think people know. I think that look, most experts, I think, don't think the Rangers are going to be particularly good this season. But as we've talked about from an optimistic point of view, you don't have to squint too hard to see them being in the mix for a playoff spot, the third spot in the Metro, a wild card spot, with the goaltender, with the top end talent they have, so, but they have to just get back to, so little of last year was about hockey, right? So little of it was about the games. It was all about what was going on off the ice, and they just need to cleanse themselves of that. You can't properly evaluate a roster if all you're worrying about is what the hell's going on in the locker room, and are the guys happy, and is there communication between the front office and the leadership? Like, none of that. I want to hear none of that. I just want to hear about practice and training camp and lines and preseason games and regular season games. Like, let's just have it be about hockey. That will dictate, like you said, Dave, what they do with the roster moving forward.
Yep. All right. We have one more hockey related question and one more and one additional non-hockey related question, both from Patrick Swayze. Welcome back.
Nice.
What is your projected starting lineup? Not what Sully will do, but what you would do.
Oh man, we did this like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 weeks ago. So fair, and we probably should do. Man, I didn't write this out before the last show. I wrote it out and I really put a lot of thought into it.
So if you want, while you're thinking, I can go through mine.
Yeah, you go. I think I might have even wrote mine down, and I don't think it's changed. But
so
go ahead.
I would go top line 1, Miller, Panarin, Laff. Line 2, Cooley, Zibanejad, Othman. Line 3, Berard, Trocheck, Radish. Line 4, Edstrom and Carrick are your mainstays, with Rempe, Parsonen, and Brodzinski rotating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that means Perreault starts in the AHL, which I'm fine with. On defense, Fox, Gavrikov, Schneider, Borgen, and Susie Morrow.
Yeah, so
go for it.
I have almost the exact same thing, except I just went Panarin, Miller, Othman, Laff, Zibanejad, Cooley, or Cooley, Zibanejad, Laff, I guess, if you're going left to right. Berard, Trocheck, Radish, and Edstrom, Carrick, and then Rempe, Brodzinski, Parsonen one of those three. Same defense: Gavrikov, Fox, Schneider, Borgen, Susi, Morrow. So yeah, that would be my ideal opening night lineup.
So I'm going to expand on that with one question. Knowing what we know about Susi's numbers with Fox, which were spectacular, something that none of us expected. We covered this a couple podcasts ago. Would you be comfortable with Susi, Fox, Gavrikov, Borgen, Schneider, Morrow?
Yeah, except that I would switch Schneider and Borgen, but yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, switch. Yeah.
I want Schneider playing in the top four. There's no this again, talk about like needing to find things out about players. Like Schneider's got to get out of a third pair role. He's supposed to be more than that. And if he's not more than that, then you got to move on from him.
Exactly. That's why I said I don't know if Schneider's going to be with the team.
Right. Right. Exactly. Because if he's no better than your sixth defenseman or your third RD, he's got to go. Like he's drafted too high. He's already made, because what's he making? He'll be
Schneider's
making
2.5.
Right, but he'll be making 3.5 or 4 on his next contract. Like that, he can't be. Yeah,
I would put him. Given Borgen's got 5 years, 4.1 million, I'll put Schneider at 5x5.
Right, exactly. So he's got to be a top 4 defenseman then, if that's what he's supposed to be making. So this is a big year for him. No doubt. He's definitely not going to get a lot of headlines, but that's definitely one of those beneath the surface stories that bears watching. Schneider's got to be a top 4 guy, and that's why what I think we both want to see is give him a shot on the left. He was good with Trouba on the left, which of all players, right? The first 10 games last year before Lindgren got back, Schneider was playing with Trouba and was really good on the left. So let's see if that works. Next year with Borgen, who I think was fine.
Borgen was fine if unspectacular. I'm hoping that contract doesn't bite Drury in the ass.
Agreed. No, I know it was a little bit weird to give him an extension after playing 5 total minutes with the Rangers.
Yep, and one that wound up being a full 100% overpayment, at least based off of Evolving Hockey's contract predictions.
Right.
All right, last question, and this is more for me, but Rob, I know you are basically done with social media in general. You hop onto Blue Sky here and there, but you're basically done, which is good. Social media is evil, as we've learned. But Patrick Swayze asks in particular, when will you guys ever get back on Twitter? No one uses Blue Sky.
Okay, so yeah, and look, I know that not that I had any massive following, but I enjoyed engaging with the Rangers community on Twitter. It was mostly fine. If not good. And, I sort of enjoyed getting into the odd argument here and there, especially if it was a good faith argument and or discussion. I don't want to just make it sound like it was all arguments because it wasn't. And certainly, look, I mean, I met my wife through Twitter, so I'm not, I'm not retconning the history here. I really enjoyed it there for a while. But I was too online to begin with. I was just scrolling too much, and the platform is not what it used to be. And I don't mind getting political a little bit here. I don't like this administration. I certainly don't like Elon Musk for a variety of reasons. And I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I have young kids. I got a job I like. I'm still on Instagram, quite a bit, probably more than I want to be, but I'm not scrolling it all day like I was with Twitter. So I hate to say it, but never. I'm done. I've made the decision. I pulled the plug, and I don't miss it enough to want to go back. Yeah, I know no one's on Blue Sky, and yes, I don't think it's particularly healthy for a society to basically have this is the Democrat left, progressive platform, and this is the conservative platform. I'm not really on Blue Sky for the politics specifically. I'm there because it does sort of fill a little bit of a void for what Twitter left, but I'm in general trying to be on my phone less, and deleting Twitter was a big part of reaching that goal.
Yep. So I'm in a different spot than you. I would love to be able to delete, in particular, Twitter and Blue Sky, but with the site, social media does drive traffic.
100%.
And that's going to be the basis. Yeah, I have to be on at least one. And this is going to be the basis of what I'm talking about, Hatrick. So, blog stats in season, the site averages about, I would say, 7,000 to 10,000 views a day in season. It fluctuates based off of how the Rangers are doing. Generally speaking, it's that range. Before Elon took over Twitter, I would say I was getting about 500 to 600 views or clicks from Twitter on a daily basis. Nothing crazy, but nothing. But it's not unsubstantial. It's a substantial amount, but you know what I'm getting at.
Right. It wasn't like a super majority of the traffic driven.
Yeah. Blue Sky right now drives that exact same amount.
Really?
Once I figured out how to get auto posting on, it drives it. I was surprised.
That's surprising to me too, because obviously it's a smaller audience in theory.
So I went from 11,000 followers to 2,000 followers, and I get the exact same traffic without the 75% bot engagement that Twitter drives, and that's an article that you can go Google. 75% of comments, tweets, likes, everything on Twitter is bots.
Yep.
That is a documented, verifiable, undeniable fact. To me, that's useless. Absolutely useless. And when from a driving traffic to my site standpoint, I can't rely on Twitter for that reason because they're not real. I want actual people to come to the site, engage with others, and talk Rangers hockey. A bot visit doesn't do that. So that's problem one. Problem two is a product of having 11,000 followers. My mentions were goddamn train wreck.
Bots or not, yeah, I'm sure.
Bots, even before Elon took over, it was a little rough to the point where I had to basically close off my DMs and I had to basically restrict what I saw to only people that I followed because it was just a disaster. And that comes with the territory. That is what it is. The issue became when the blue checkmark brigade started coming, the $8 chan shit. That was the problem because I could only mute so much. And when they're at the top of your mentions, it becomes a problem, especially when there's a very specific subset of people early on, not so much now, but early on, that they were the Elon fanboys, and if you basically weren't giving him a reach around, you were the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a fan of that, so I was gone. I had legitimate reasons to leave. I don't ever plan on going back. Ever. As long as Elon Musk and his Sig Heil douchebaggery and his Nazi-loving ways, and I'm calling it what it is at this point, Elon Musk threw out 2 Sig Heils at the Republican convention. He is a Nazi.
Yeah.
I will not support a site that has a Nazi running it. And if you're on Substack, by the way, you might want to get off of Substack too. Same fucking problem.
Yeah, it's not great out there.
Social media is horrible.
Yeah. Well, and I think also if you're looking for a summer reading recommendation, there's a book. So Chris Hayes, who's an MSNBC commentator, and sure, like that betrays his politics, but he's also like a very deep and thoughtful person. Like he's not just out doing like, political hot takes all the time. Like he's got a really good podcast, deep dives, interview subjects. He wrote a book called The Siren's Call. I would encourage people to read it because it talks about, basically the world we live in, which is just based on grabbing attention now, right? It's called the attention economy. There's been all sorts of like, scholarly articles and books written about it, but he sort of distills it down into like, what does that mean? And like, why does that make you feel and operate the way you feel now? Like in the world right now, where you're just on your phone constantly and like there's this need to post and get reactions, and like Elon's basically like the avatar for all that. Like so yes, his politics I think are particularly abhorrent, but he's also just like a huge attention whore, and like him purchasing Twitter was like a $44 billion vanity play. That's all it really was. And he wanted people to be thinking about him and reacting to him at all times. It's not too dissimilar to the reason Donald Trump ran for president, right? This is just people who have this insatiable appetite for attention all the time, and they do know how to get people's attention to a certain extent. So I felt myself getting like sucked into a world too much that I didn't want to get sucked into. And yes, the experience was getting worse and worse as the days and weeks went by on Twitter. So, it wasn't necessarily easy, but because I tried to sort of like self-regulate and like just not go on it as much. And then I just deleted it because I couldn't, like, I was addicted. I was, instinctively opening the app almost every time I looked at my phone. So I had to delete it to take the option away from myself. So, look, I think everybody makes their own decisions here. We're certainly not telling people how to use social media, but, be aware that these platforms are operating in a way that they're trying to keep you addicted to them. I'm sorry, I'm not posting there. I think, Dave, to some extent, you're sorry you're not posting there anymore, but listen to the podcast, read the blog. We are over on Blue Sky. I'm not posting as much there, but we are on Blue Sky. That's how we're choosing to engage with the Rangers community now. And that's right. That's ultimately our decision here.
Yep. And that's a fair question, Hatrick. It really is, because sports did not come over to Blue Sky, and Blue Sky really won't take off until sports does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the unfortunate way of the way things are. And I'm willing to accept the coincidence that is the blog traffic from Blue Sky coming around the same time that Banter went behind a paywall. Like, I'm not oblivious to the fact that my traffic went up not significant. I would say it went up about 10, 20% when Banter went behind a paywall.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't always see eye to eye with Joe and, the group there. But their content is very good. And if you want to pay for it, go and subscribe to them. But there's a lot of people that don't want to, and that's fair. So as long as my site is free, I'm going to, quote unquote free, I should say, sign up for the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get more traffic from social media sites like Blue Sky because it's not behind a paywall.
Right. Yeah, and the followers there are real. So, if there are 2,000 people following you, they're following you intentionally because they want the Rangers content. So that's why you're seeing, I think, a higher rate of engagement and clicks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, but it's an interesting question. I do certainly miss like the Ranger Twitter community. Like at its height, it was really fun. Again, that's how I met Becky. I mean, Dave, that's how you and I, have engaged a lot and built a friendship for years. And, same goes for a lot of people. And I miss the Blue Seat Blogs group chat that I was in that thing probably 2 hours every day at my height of Twitter use. So there are things that I miss, but not enough to come back.
As soon as Blue Sky opens up group DMs, which they said they're working on, I'm moving that entire group chat over. And I have to be on Twitter, to keep the username because I don't really want somebody out there masquerading around as me. Mm-hmm. And because, like we said, the beats are still there, the news is still there. There are bots that repost what Elliot Friedman says and Pierre LeBrun say. There are bots on Blue Sky that automatically do that. But, there's like 3 people that aren't on Blue Sky that I legitimately miss because of their content. Hockey Stat Miner being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I do miss that, but not enough to start re-engaging. Yeah. And I have so much documentation in terms of traffic and analytics that I could put out there that I did not lose any traffic from leaving Twitter at all.
Yeah. No, really interesting question. And good to get a little bit of a look behind the curtain there too on how things work. I'm sure people appreciate that as well, Dave. You've been doing the blog for a long time. So, and we've been doing the pod for, better part of 5 years. So
it's been 5 years.
Yeah, we started in
Yeah, we
2020,
started
right
before
before
both of
COVID.
us had kids.
Before COVID, yeah, right before COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's
Wow.
yeah. I mean, again, not always can. We're trying to keep the consistency up. That's a goal for us this year. Stated goal to have a show every week. JL's been great. Helping keeping the train rolling when Dave and I aren't available. So yeah, and as the season ramps back up, I think look, we'd love to get some more guests in here, do some more interesting stuff with the pod. But even just doing a weekly show like this, hopefully everyone's enjoying that. So, any other final thoughts, Dave? Let's wrap this up.
The only final thought I have is I'm going to stick to the social media thing. I deleted my Facebook account like completely. And if you find yourself like Rob or like me, where you're just habitually going to it, you have muscle memory in your thumbs, but you don't want to delete something, move the icon.
Mm, good stuff.
So what I did was I had Twitter on my bottom right shortcuts. I put Blue Sky there, and I put Twitter on like 3 scrolling pages away, along with Instagram. So I have to work to get there, and I'm on both of them significantly less because of that.
Yep.
I'm on Instagram at night sending because my wife and I will literally just lay there in bed sending each other dumb reels, and it's one of our favorite parts of the day.
Yeah. No, listen, that's there, and there is some, utility and connection there for it. So,
Hmm.
I'm not fully anti social media. And again, I'm not preaching here to tell people how to use it, but that's just how, my experience is. No, like I said, I'm still on Instagram. I do some Blue Sky. Um, I'm on YouTube a lot, but I'm usually like listening to podcasts and like catching up on sports highlights and stuff like that. So, all right. No, good stuff. We've been going for a long time here. So hope everyone enjoyed the show. And as promised, we will be back in some capacity next week. I don't think I'll be here. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But we look
I
forward
will
to that.
not be. So if you're not there, it's a JL only show.
Might be
So
a
I'm
JL
sorry to
solo.
you guys in advance because
All right. Well,
oof.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. If JL's
I got
not
to get my
at
shot
another
in.
Mets game. Yeah. Which I know, that's not been a fun experience the last month. But no, thanks everyone for listening. Always a blast here at Live from the Blue Seats. And we will see you next week.